All right. So second treatise of government. Did you guys just read chapter 2, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to read. All right. So who wants to start us off a little bit? What do we think the state of nature? What does that mean? Any of you guys can chime in. The worst that happens is you're wrong, and we just fix it. So Anika, start us off.
Um, I think that he's kind of like talking about like how human nature is and like how people are, I guess.
Okay. All right. Shivani, what can you add?
Um, it's kind of like how humans and like nature interact, I think.
Okay. All right. All right. So I think we've identified one of the things right off the bat that's a little bit tricky is this word nature, right? And it's because you and me, modern day people, when we say nature, we think we're talking about like trees and squirrels and things, right? But when he's saying state of nature, he's talking about the origins of humanity.
Oh.
Okay? He's talking about the origins of humanity. So the state of nature is let's read this first section right here. Eric, can you read this for us?
Sure. To understand political power right and derive it from its original, we must consider what state all men are naturally in, and that is a state of perfect freedom to order their actions and dispose of their possessions and persons as they think fit, within the bounds of the law of nature, without asking leave or depending on the will of any other man.
Okay. So the first things first, every time John Locke says man, he understand that word to be gender neutral. Okay? Because John Locke he has later in his book, he actually has a chapter about women, and he explicitly says that women are equal, that it's to be understood to include women. Okay? So I don't want you walking away saying John Locke is some kind of sexist, because he's not. All right. So what did Eric say? What did he read? This is like Locke's thesis statement. What are we trying to understand?
Like, well, from what just that sentence says, I think that he's trying to say like all like men, as in all humans, are in this state where they're completely in control of their actions and can do whatever they think is the right thing to do within, like he says, within the bounds of the law of nature, without asking. So yeah, just like completely free in your mind and in control.
I think that's good, but listen to the question again. Anika, I think everything you said is in that sentence. It's correct in the sentence, but listen to the question. Okay? What is it that we are attempting to understand?
Through this whole just through the sentence.
Just the sentence. What are we attempting to understand?
Political power.
There we go. All right, so we're trying to understand the origins of political power. And you could put this in your notes with John Locke. John Locke is trying to decide what the origin of government is. What's the origin of government? Right? So at this point in time, all of the governments on the planet Earth are all the governments on the Earth are kings and queens. They're all monarchies, right? So how does a king get his power?
Inherits it.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me rephrase that because that's right, but that's not what I was looking for. How does when the king speaks to the people of his country, or a queen, when the king speaks to the people of his country, and the people of his country say, "Why should we listen to you?" What's the king's answer?
Because God told me, or
There you go. Yeah, it's because God, right? The phrase you want is divine right of kings, divine right of kings. And they'll say that kings rule because God gave them the power to rule, right? And the king will say, I am blessed by God. God wants me to rule the evidence that God wants me to rule is that he put me in power. If God wanted you to be in power, you would have been born king. But you were not born king, so you must listen to me. Does that make sense? Okay, John Locke is rejecting that. He says that the origin of political power comes from what?
Like the nature of men.
Yeah, the nature of man. That's a good way to say it, right? So one of the concepts that you need here with Locke is the concept of deism. Okay, it's on the, you can see my slide right now, right?
Yeah.
Deism, the concept of deism. All right, so deism is a religious idea. It's a religious idea that God is so far away and so far removed that he doesn't interact with humans. Deism is a concept that God is so far away, so removed, that God doesn't actually interact with humans. Okay, deism is like the central religion of the Enlightenment. Okay, it's the central religion of the Enlightenment. Deism is what almost all of the Enlightenment thinkers believe. Okay, and coincidentally, deism is also going to be the religious belief of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison. Right? They're all going to be deists. What that means is that they don't believe God interacts with us. God does not love you, according to a deist. God doesn't love you. God doesn't watch you. God doesn't care about you. God doesn't care if you're cheating on your spouse. God doesn't care if you're stealing candy bars. God doesn't care. God does not send his son to the earth for you. God does not send prophets to the earth. God doesn't talk to you. Right? God started the world, started the universe off, and walked away. That God doesn't care. The concept here is that God is essentially a force of nature. Right? And God ends up being everything I can't explain about nature. Right? Because if you ask John Locke or any of these other guys and you say, hey, where does the universe come from? He'll say, I don't know. And they say, well, it had to come from something. Where did it come from? And they say, well, it came from God. Right? But that's it. God is what a modern person would call the Big Bang. Right? Big Bang is a theory that comes much later, right? But a modern day person would look at the Big Bang and say, yeah, that's deism. Now this is like quite a bit different than Winthrop, right? Right? John Winthrop believes in this like personal God that is guiding us and stuff like that. Okay? But John Locke doesn't. And if God doesn't exist, functionally doesn't exist, then we have to get our freedom from something else. Our government comes from our freedom. All right, Shivani, can you read this next line here?
Yeah. Is it, hold on, sorry. It's on my phone, so it's really tiny.
A state also of
state-
equality?
Okay. A state also of equality wherein all the power and jurisdiction is reciprocal, no one having more than another, there being nothing more evident than the creatures of the same species and rank, promiscuously born to all the same advantages of nature, and the use of the same faculties should also be equal one amongst another without subordination or subjection, unless the Lord and Master of them all should, by any manifest declaration of his will, set one above another, and confer on him by an evident and clear appointment, an undoubted right to dominion and sovereignty.
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 Okay. Sovereignty means ruling itself,
Mhm.
right? Like a sovereign, like the king is a sovereign. All right, Eric, take a shot. What does that mean? The thing that Shivani just read. What do you think, man?
Means that everyone is born equal in nature.
Okay.
Unless God said no, I guess. So everyone is sovereign and rules themselves.
So does he mention God?
He mentions unless the Lord and Master of them all should. So I assume that means God,
So that's
but I'm
a
not.
so look, unless the Lord and Master of them all should by any manifest declaration of his will set one above another, right, and confer on him.
Mm-hmm.
John Locke doesn't believe in God. This is him being skeptical of God. He's saying
Oh.
everyone is equal, unless of course God wants to chime in and say we're not. Right? He's like God. If God like rips a hole in the sky and pops out and he says, "Hey, you guys, you're not equal. Eric's better than you two. Suck it up." Right? And then closes the sky up and goes away, then we believe it. But God's not going to do that. Right?
Yeah.
That's not how God works. And so John Locke is like, well, God's not around here to tell me otherwise, so we're all equal. Okay, so in your notes, what you would do is you would put all men are created equal. Sound familiar?
Oh, maybe Thomas Jefferson plagiarizing a little?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's almost exactly like that, right? In fact, I think Locke has that phrase later in the book, actually. And men in that case is supposed to be understood to be gender equal. It's supposed to be a gender neutral statement. All right. Okay, Anika, can you read this part? Read this part and then also this part here.
This equality of men by nature, the judicious Hooker looks upon as so evident in itself, and beyond all question, that he makes it the foundation of that obligation to mutual love amongst men, on which he builds the duties they owe one another, and from whence he derives the great maxims of justice and charity. His words are, the like natural inducement hath brought men to know that it is no less their duty to love others than themselves. For seeing those things which are equal must needs all have one measure. If I cannot but wish to receive good, even as much at every man's hands as any man can wish unto his own soul, how should I look to have any part of my desire herein satisfied, unless myself be careful to satisfy the like desire, which is undoubtedly in other men, being of one and the same nature? Oh, that was a question. To have anything offered them repugnant to this desire must needs in all respect grieve them as much as me, so that if I do harm, I must look to suffer, there being no reason that others should shew greater measure of love to me than they have by me shewed unto them. My desire therefore to be loved of my equals in nature as much as possible may be, imposeth upon me in a natural duty of bearing to themward fully the like affection, from which relation of equality between ourselves and them that are as ourselves, what several rules and canons natural reason hath drawn, for direction of life no man is ignorant. And then
Good. All right, so when Anika said shew and shewed, that's what we modern day people would say show.
Okay.
Right, so the others would show greater measure. This is just an example where the spelling hadn't been standardized yet, right? So it's show, the word is show. All right, and showed, right? Modern day we would say shown. This is just where it hasn't been standardized. Okay, so what does that mean? Shivani, what do you think that means?
From what I got, I think it's like how people treat you should be how you treat them, or like equaling, like there shouldn't be, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it basically, right? Do unto others as you have them do unto you. Right? That would be the Bible way to say it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right? And why should I treat you with brotherhood? Why should I treat you with kinship and kindness? Anika, why should I treat you kindly?
So that you can be treated kindly, and also he said that it's like you're one of the same nature.
Yeah.
It's like it's human nature to treat other people kindly.
Yeah. That's exactly true on both accounts. So one, I treat you kindly because that's what I want you to treat me kindly, right? But the other reason is because you and I are kinship, right? We're kin with each other. We are the same. If I hurt you, it is the same as hurting myself.
Right.
What he's getting at is that we're all connected with each other, right? We all have this this connection to each other where we can't hurt each other. We can't hurt each other. We have to help each other. If one of us is starving, we're all starving. Okay. All right. So we're gonna jump ahead here because it's gonna take us all day if we read it like that. We did read that in class quite a bit, but it took a good chunk of the time. All right. So John Locke is dealing with something called the social contract. We didn't do this at all with you guys before, is that right? Okay. All right. So social contract. Social contract is a philosophic idea that John Locke is presenting us with. Okay. So the state of nature is the state of humans before society started. Okay. State of nature is state of humans before society started. When we were all like cave people or tree people or something, right? Before we had a society. Okay. Now in our society, in our natural state, we have maximum freedom. Maximum freedom. You are free to do anything you want, and I'm free to do anything I want. Right? That means all the way up to and including, I have the freedom to kill you. But you also have the freedom to kill me. Right? Now I'm pretty confident in my ability that I might be able to kill Anika, right? And maybe Anika would look at me and say, oh my God, you know, this big dude's gonna kill me, right? But I gotta go to sleep sometime, right? Right? Anika, you may not be able to beat me in a straight up fight, but you absolutely can beat me if I'm asleep,
Oh, yeah.
right? Right?
She takes taekwondo, so I don't know.
Maybe you
Or
can
is it
beat me, maybe you can just beat me in any case, right? In which case I can beat you when you're asleep, right? That's fine. Either way, we're both vulnerable, right? We can understand that, right? So what we do is we start off. So Anika, you and I are gonna come up with an agreement, okay? The first step of our agreement, I would like it for you and I to both agree to never murder each other. Does that seem like a pretty good agreement?
It seems a little far-fetched, but it's okay. I guess it'll work.
We can start with that. All right, so you and I will agree not to murder each other. All right, sound like a deal?
Sounds good.
All right, so what would you like to add to our agreement now? What else would you like us to not do to each other?
I would really like it if you didn't steal stuff from me.
Okay, all right, I think I can do that, but you have to agree not to steal things from me too.
Okay, that works.
Sounds like a deal. Okay, all right, what else should we add, Anika?
I'm trying to think. What's good?
How about I don't want you to like beat me up or like rape me or anything. How's
Okay,
that sound?
yeah, that seems good. Just don't do the same.
Yeah, okay. So we've come up with a couple of pretty good agreements here, right? Right? I think that Anika and I can be pretty happy with this. Right now, we look over here and we see Shivani and Eric. You guys are still living in the state of nature. You guys don't really have anything, do you? You mostly just can't sleep at night because people are out here trying to murder you all the time, right? And the world looks pretty bad. Eric, you look over at Anika and me and you think, that's a pretty good agreement, right? Eric, would you like to get in on our agreement with us?
Yeah, sure. I would like to not be killed.
Yeah, but here's the catch, Eric. There's rules.
Can't kill
You
us.
have to agree not to kill us, not to steal our stuff, and not to assault us. Can you
Oh.
make those agreements?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. You know what Anika, Eric, and I just did? We formed a society.
Okay.
We made a social contract, which is the birth of society. Right? At this point in time, Eric, Anika, and I are in a contract with each other. Right? Shivani's not, but do you guys want to invite Shivani into our contract too? Shivani, you want in?
Yeah, let me in.
All right. So I think we can all agree that we'll let Shivani in, but again, Shivani, you got to follow the rules. You can't kill us. You can't steal from us. You can't assault us. Can you follow those
Okay,
rules?
yeah. Just
All
don't
right.
do that to me.
Oh, done. Done. Welcome to society, guys. So now that we have created a social contract with each other, this is a basis for behavior between us, right? We agree to give up some of our freedom in order to get material wealth, right? Because I have a sweet peach tree, right? It's really good, but the problem is I'm kind of sick of peaches. I eat them all the time, right? Anika, you have that cow that produces all that really good milk, right? So maybe I can give you some of my peaches and you can give me some of your milk. Does that sound like a good deal? Right? And then Eric, you can give us like some of your whatever you have, tomatoes or something, right? And Shivani, maybe you can like make shoes for us or something, right? And we can all kind of share with each other. Okay? In the state of nature, we had nothing. We had nothing, but now we got milk, we got peaches, we got tomatoes, and we got shoes, right? That's pretty sweet, right? All of our lives are better because we've managed to make that contract with each other, right? Are you guys understanding how this is going?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does the power of the governed come from?
People.
The people, right? According to Locke. Because now our society, let's say our society is so successful that we've now included 1,000 people in our society, right? 1,000 people have all agreed that they don't want to be murdered or raped or beaten or stolen, right? That's a pretty good set of things that we all would like, right? So now we've got 1,000 people. We got to figure out how to rule over us. We got to figure out how to like enforce laws and stuff, right? How are we going to go about doing that? Eric, how should we choose a leader?
Well, if it came from the people, we should probably like elect someone, right?
Right,
Because everyone has equal rights, so
right,
everyone should have equal choice.
right. So we're all supposed to be equals, unless of course God rips the sky open and tells us otherwise. But so far he hasn't done that, right? So far he hasn't done that. So now we're going to just elect who we think is our best leader. Now Shivani has a lot of really good ideas, but so does Anika. They both have really, really good ideas. And so we need to vote and decide who the leader is. And once we all vote, the majority picks Shivani, we all agree, and Shivani rules over us, right? Okay?
Cool.
That's what we call ruled by the consent of the governed. John Locke gives us the idea that government derives its power from the consent of the governed. The only reason Shivani has power over us is because we've agreed to give her that power. Right? She doesn't have power because God told her. She doesn't have power because Ganesha told her or anyone else, right? She doesn't have power because she's like the tallest or the strongest or fastest or most violent, right? She doesn't have power because she's the most beautiful or the richest or smartest or any of those other reasons. She has power because we gave it to her. Okay? Locke says that the only real government that you can have is consent of the governed. Now, he also says that government must be limited. That's your next concept you need. Government must be limited, and government must preserve these three things for everybody: life, liberty, property. So in your notes, make sure you say, these are the three things that the government must protect: life, liberty, property. Okay, so life seems pretty straightforward, right? If I murder you, I'm not respecting you, right? If I kill you, I'm not respecting you. So you have the ability, you have the right to live. Okay, liberty is the right to be free. If I put you in chains, you do not have you're tied up. You're right, you can't do anything. Okay, so life and liberty. Property is the one that's a little bit trickier to understand, but property is the cause of liberty. Your freedom comes from your property. Freedom comes from property. Now, what do you think that means? Freedom comes from property. So when Locke is talking about property, he says that property is like land. Like he's talking about like land, right? The ability to produce your own food. Okay, if I need food and Eric controls all the food, do I really have freedom? I don't, right? Because what could Eric do at any time?
Take away his food.
He could take my food away from me, right? Or he could say, well, I'll give you food, but only if you do this thing, right? Only if you go kill Anika, I'll give you food, right? You have taken away my freedom to not kill Anika.
Dang it.
Right? Yeah, it's very rude of you, Eric. Very rude.
Sorry.
Very rude.
I don't
But
know
you-
if I forgive you.
Yeah, and like if all four of us have farms, but Eric is the one who controls the river that comes in, and then Eric decides to put a dam on the river, right? Anika, Shivani, and I can't grow food, right?
So you have to
Eric
do it.
has taken away our liberty. Okay? So in your notes, make sure you put that in there. Property causes liberty, because if somebody controls your ability to get property, then it takes away your liberty, right? And then put in an example if they dam up the river that I need to use for my farm. That's the example that John Locke uses in his book. Okay, put a dam in the river so that my farm has no water. There's another way to think about this, right? Who's the richest man on the planet today?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, and he's worth how much?
Couple hundred billion.
He's worth somewhere around $180 billion, somewhere around there, right? I am worth much less than that. I'm worth considerably less than that, right? Now, in a philosophic sense, am I equal with Bezos?
Yeah, like human nature.
In like human nature
Yeah.
sense of the word, like he and I are equals, right?
Yeah.
But in an actual sense of the word, are we equal? Not really, right? Because he has so much more property than I do, right? He has the freedom to do whatever he wants, right? He could just fly to Fiji tomorrow, right? Do I have the freedom to fly to Fiji? I do not, because I don't have the money to fly to Fiji, right? I need to work for a living. I need to pay for my house. I need to pay for my food. And I just don't have enough money to just fly to Fiji tomorrow, right? I would have to like save up for a while. And, I mean, I could go eventually, but I can't just do it. I just don't have that freedom, right? He has the freedom to just like buy a plane. Do I? I do not. He could just like, I have the freedom to like, I have this much money, so I have the freedom to like eat at Taco Bell tomorrow, right? He has like that much money, which means he has the freedom to buy Taco Bell tomorrow, right? Right? So in a really fundamental way, he has more freedom than I do, right? So the concept that I want you to put underneath here is this concept of what is freedom? Okay, what is freedom? The entire class, we're asking the question, what does it mean to be an American? Well, one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, what does it mean to be free? What is freedom? Right? Is Jeff Bezos free to have $180 billion where I don't? Right? Is he free to do that?
Yep.
Maybe we should take all of his money away and give it to other people. Right? We could take all of his money and give every single man, woman, and child in the United States $100,000.
But are we free to do that?
That would increase my freedom a lot, right? It would really, $100,000 is a lot of money, man. That would increase my freedom quite a bit. Is it okay to take that away from him in order to increase the freedom for the rest of us? I don't know, maybe, right? Some Americans would say yes, and other Americans would say no, right? This is a concept that we wrestle with, okay? Am I free to go into the streets and join a Black Lives Matter protest? I am. If I'm so free, then why did the police tear gas me?
We live in a strange society.
Well, right? And
You should be free, but if if the government isn't sticking to these types of the things that started founding it, like John Locke's ideas founded basically what we know of, and if we aren't sticking to it, then
Yeah, so this is something that Americans don't necessarily agree on, right? This is something that we just keep kind of fighting about. And we're fighting about it all the way till today, right? The Black Lives Matter is a good example of how we're fighting it today. And we're fighting it back in Locke's time, and we're fighting it today, right? It's one of these questions that we're constantly going to be asking. Because if we are a country based on life, liberty, and property, what does that mean for the Black man living in South Carolina? What does that mean for the woman living in Puritan, Massachusetts? What does it mean for the poor immigrant in New York City? What does it mean, what does it mean for all these different people? Freedom is different for different people. And to a certain extent, Americans are comfortable with that, right? To a certain extent, we believe everyone should be absolutely free and equal, but like when you actually look at things, we seem to be pretty comfortable with quite a big level of inequality and quite a big level of different freedoms and stuff like that. Does that mean that we've betrayed our beliefs, or does that mean that we never had them in the first place? I don't have an answer for you. These are just questions that you need to be pursuing as we go through the course. Okay? Okay, so let's go to the next really, really big concept, and that's called the Great Awakening. So this should be big number, I think we're on N, I think. Is that where we are?
Honestly, I wasn't keeping track.
I think it's, let me check. John, so the Enlightenment was O.
Oh, that's right. The Enlightenment was O, so if Locke was P, then this is Q. Okay, so the Great Awakening should be Q then, big number Q. All right, so the Great Awakening is a conservative Christian religious revival, a conservative Christian revival in the mid-1700s. So what's going on here is it's been 100 years since Plymouth was founded, right? And the United States has been getting all sorts of people coming in. We got all the business type people coming into the South. We have all these like Dutch and Germans and Swedes and all these like various kinds of people coming into the middle colonies, right? And America has really been embracing this dude named John Locke, and we've been embracing a bunch of these other Enlightenment guys, right? And these Enlightenment guys, none of them are religious. Every one of them is a deist, every single one of them, right? And so America is becoming progressively less and less religious, which means they come back. You guys know what a pendulum is?
It's the dude.
Right? It swings like in the bottom of a grandfather clock or something like that, right? So the pendulum always swings from the left to the right? We go very far right, we go really conservative, and then we swing really far left and we go really liberal, right? The United States always, to a degree, every country does this, but the United States always has that pendulum swinging back and forth, okay? Basically every presidential election, we swing left and we swing right. We swing left, we swing right. The Great Awakening is a response to the Enlightenment. The Great Awakening is a response to the, a response to the Enlightenment. And it's a big movement where lots and lots of people start to embrace Christianity, and they embrace a much more conservative version of Christianity, right? A conservative version of Christianity where the most famous speech is sinners in the hands of an angry God, right? And this is John Edwards. He's raising his hands like he just don't care, right? But he does care. And he's calling out to all these people, and we're not going to read his speech. We're not going to read this sermon because the sermon, I don't think, has a lot of intellectual value to it. But he's basically listing off all the bad things that are going to make you go to hell, right? You're cheating on your spouse, you're going to go to hell. You're stealing, you're going to go to hell. You're listening to music, you're going to go to hell. You try to cut your hair short, you're going to go to hell. Ladies, you try to wear pants, you're going to go to hell, right? Like you try to do this, you try to do this, try to do this, you're going to go to hell, right? He's basically calling out America, saying America's going to go to hell if we keep embracing this enlightenment. We have the enlightenment is the big swing to the left. The awakening is the big swing to the right. Okay? And you'll see this all through American history, all the time, right? All the way up to Barack Obama is a swing to the left. We elect our first black president. That's a huge, massive, massive step, right, for racial equality. So we swing all the way to the right and elect Donald Trump, the anti-Obama, right? Donald Trump, who openly says racist things and openly embraces white supremacists and things, right? And it's that swing back and forth, right? And Trump will keep us over on the right for a while, but eventually what's going to happen is we're going to swing back left again. We never stay on the extreme for very long. We like the middle, and we kind of hang out in the middle, right? We hang out in the middle the whole time. We don't spend a lot of time on the far right or the far left. And we have these ideas that show up on the far right and on the far left, and those ideas over time will eventually either fade away or be dragged into the middle, right? So a good example of this is the idea that women are equal to men. In this time period, in Jonathan Edwards' time period, the idea that men and women are equal is like a super radical, crazy idea, right? That's bonkers. Who would ever think that women and men are equal? That's bonkers, right? But today, that idea is firmly in the middle, right? And if you meet somebody who says that women and men are not equal and that women are inferior and should be inferior, right? How are you going to react to that person?
Heathen.
Confused. Yeah.
Right? You're going to shun him, right? You're going to reject that guy. And you're going to be like, you suck, dude. Like, that's a terrible thing to say. You suck, right? And basically everyone in America would say the same thing, because the idea of gender equality moved from the left to the middle, right? Or racial equality moved from the left to the middle, right? What do you see? What do you think if you see somebody who's being openly racist?
Screw you, dude.
Yeah, you reject that guy, right? Because they're like, you suck, man. But like open racism used to be the standard behavior back then, right? And so it's been pulled over, right? Something like, there's all sorts of things that are like that. Lots and lots of ideas. Okay? All right, so Jonathan Edwards is a big religious revival. He's probably the biggest voice in the Great Awakening. But they're all basically kind of bringing back that Puritan Christianity. Oh, my internet. Can you guys hear me?
We
Now we
can
can.
now, but we couldn't.
Did I cut out?
Yeah.
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 We heard Puritan Society.
All right. I think we're done with this. Now, did you guys do your study guide things?
I did most of it, kind of.
Okay.
I didn't finish it.
I tried to just get the big stuff down. Like I can go in, like I know what it's like for the big concepts. I like wrote down what I think the big concepts are, but I can always I'm gonna finish filling out the whole thing later.
Okay. So in your study guide, I want you to understand this is the way that we use the study guide, okay? That the terms, events, ideas, and people, you would put a person in here, so you would, what is going on? So you'd have a person in here, John Winthrop, right? You put John Winthrop, you identify who he is and explain why he's important, okay? So I'd see a name and then like a statement, right? You'd say something like encomienda. What is it? Identify it. What is it, right? You'd put something like the Mayflower Compact. What is it? Why is it important, right? I want you to understand that these boxes, the 4 boxes up here, are the things that are going to appear on multiple choice questions, okay? You don't need to know everything about them, but you do need to be able to identify them in a multiple choice question, okay? These broad concepts down here are the things that would be in an essay question, These are the things that you need to be able to explain in detail. You need to be able to explain about a 5-paragraph essay worth of information about them. Okay? So in class, the groups have been working together on their lists. You guys don't have that ability. So pull up your list real quick. Shivani, give me one of your vocab terms that you have.
I did the Mayflower Compact.
Okay? All right. And what is it? Why is it important?
It established a government in Plymouth that pledged allegiance to the king by the Puritans.
Okay. All
Like
right.
it was the first form of a constitution.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for. It's the first form of a constitution, and it kind of pledges allegiance to the king. More importantly, is it says that they're going to rule themselves.
Okay.
All right, Eric, give me another term.
I haven't really started working on it.
That's the worst answer I've ever heard in my life. All right, give me a term, Eric.
Okay.
All right, I'll go to Anika, and I'm going to come back to you. Man, it's going to be
All
tough
right.
for you. But every third answer is yours, man. All right, Anika, what you got?
American exceptionalism.
Okay, what is it? Why is it important?
It's the what part from The City on the Hill when he talked about how America is tasked with being perfect, and like we're uniquely different from the rest of the world in that we have to be perfect and we're blessed. So.
Okay. All right. Eric, give me another one.
The encomienda system.
All right, what is it?
It's a plantation system where the Spanish enslaved the natives.
Good. All right, Shivani, give me another.
I did theocracy, which is a system of government in which priests rule in the name of God, which is how the Puritans ruled their society.
There you go. Massachusetts, at least early Massachusetts definitely was, right? All right, Anika, give me another.